If you're looking for a last-minute gift that feels meaningful and handmade, but not rushed, you're in the right place. Today, I'm pulling from my own DIY stash, a favorite from the CNC DIY factory shop, and the beautiful papers and paints inside Sonnet's December's Maker's Box to create cardinal-themed gifts that work for any season. I'll show you how Thrifted finds, our DIY kit, and the Maker's Box come together to create meaningful, heartfelt gifts. I'm Cindy. My husband is Chris. Welcome to CNC DIY Factory. For this project, I'm using two favorites from IOD, the Le Cloche mold and the Conservatory Labels mold. I pre-poured both using clear resin, which takes about 24 hours to fully cure, so they are ready to use today. The Cloche mold creates a matte finish when using clear resin, so to help the castings to have a clear see-through look, I'm using bright tone clear gloss top coat. Now you can use any type of top coat you prefer, but I have found that this brand provides a streak-free clear gloss finish. If you want to try it for yourself, I will have it linked in the description box below. The napkins from Sonnet's Maker's Box are always a favorite, and this cardinal is perfect for a double-sided cloche. Because the design is symmetrical, you can apply it back to back so the image shows through the cloche as if it were printed on glass. To adhere the napkins to the cloche, I am using the DIY Crystal Clear Liquid Patina. I lay down a nice even layer of the patina to the back side of the cloche and only in the area where I want the napkin to be. Then I flip the cloche over, hover over the napkin until I have it exactly where I want it, and then I press the cloche into the napkin. Then I flip it over and apply more liquid patina to seal it in. Now, I will have to embrace the wrinkles, but in order to try to minimize them, I will use a balled up piece of plastic wrap to try to press them out as much as I can. I'll do this to both cloches, being sure to line up the second cloche exactly the same as I did the first one. And once they are completely dry, I will use my finger sander and sand off the excess napkin around the edges, and then use a sharp craft knife to cut away the excess at the bottom and the top of the cloche. Looks like they lined up perfectly. Now this next step can be done with any color of your choosing. I am going to be using the Fusion Mineral paint in Park Bench that was in this month's Maker's Box. I've not had a chance to use this color yet, and I am so glad we get to try a new green color. As you can see here, the first coat goes on a little streaky and see-through, but the second coat really shows off that beautiful green, and it pulls the greens out of the napkin. And for the label, I will also apply 2 coats of the same Park Bench green from Fusion Mineral paint. I am going to show you 3 different looks with 2 different waxes on these cloches, so you can see how you can achieve different looks, and if you're inspired to make this, you will know which look you prefer. I will start with the DIY Golden Rule wax over the Park Bench green. Next, I'll use the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark over the park bench green. I'll apply the wax, then I'll wipe off the excess to create a bit of a grungy feel. Okay, so here are 2 of the 3 looks. Let me know if you like either or both of these. For the third look, I'm applying the golden rule over top of the one with the dark wax. Spoiler, this one is my favorite look of all 3. Now to change the first one with just the golden rule wax, I'm going to go over that with the dark wax, wipe off the excess, and then reapply the golden rule wax so that both sides are the same. To adhere the cloches together, I am using E6000 glue. This is a clear glue and it will bond nicely with the resin. I'll smooth the glue over the entire surface, being sure to have it all the way to the edges for good contact. Now to create a base for the cloche, I will add the glue to the bottom of the cloches and then I'll adhere them to the top of the label's mold. Now notice that I did not put wax on the label yet. I will add that once the glue has had time to set, and that will take about 4 hours or so. Well, the glue is set enough for me to finish this up. I'll add the dark wax, wipe off the excess, and then apply the golden rule wax over the top to bring out the beautiful details. Now this piece nods more to the holiday season with the park bench green, but I can see this with black as the base and then the golden rule wax over that to really make that cardinal pop. Either way, this is a beautiful, heartfelt gift for anyone who loves cardinals. This is a quick and easy project that is perfect for ornament exchanges. I am using a Dollar Tree drop cloth bag and a 3-inch embroidery hoop, along with one of the exclusive rice papers from Connie at the Painted Photographer that was in this month's Maker's Box to create this project. I start by drawing a circle about a 1/2 inch away from the hoop, then using a sharp pair of scissors, I will cut just inside of that circle, leaving the ink from the marker on the bag so that there is no chance of it bleeding through onto my project. Next, I'll use a water pen to draw a line of water around the cardinal that I want to use and tear that away from the sheet of rice paper. Now if you don't have a water pen, you can use a paintbrush with water to do the same thing. I like the water pen because it has the water already inside of it, and all I need to do is give it a little squeeze to draw it out of the bristles. Easy peasy. I want to adhere the rice paper to the drop cloth, and since both materials are thick, I will use my Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel and apply a good thick coat to the drop cloth. Then I'll spritz the back side of the rice paper and smooth it down, adding more decoupage medium to ensure a good bond. Now this is where I wanted to make sure I didn't have any ink around the outside edge, or it could bleed onto or into the center of my drop cloth. The embroidery hoop is a light bamboo color and I want to darken it up just a little bit, so I'm taking my Fusion Antiquing Glaze and a wet wipe, and I will lightly add the glaze to the outside of the hoop and then let that dry. Once the material for the cardinal is completely dry, I will lay this over top of the inside hoop and then slide the outside hoop over top of that. Then, using a screwdriver, I'll tighten the outside hoop down to keep the material from slipping. And then after I have the cardinal lined up and secured, I'll use a sharp pair of scissors to trim off any excess material on the back. Now you could glue down a piece of drop cloth or felt on the back for a more finished look, but I'm leaving mine open. For a hanger, I am using 1/8 inch gross grain ribbon. I cut off a length that I feel will work, and then I'll thread it through the screw at the top of the hoop and tie a knot. Then I thread on a red bead and a black bead. Now to secure the beads, I'll tie another knot just above the top bead to keep them from slipping off. To give this ornament just a little something something, I tied a shoestring bow to go at the top. I will use a drop of hot glue to secure it down, and this beautiful ornament is ready to be given as an ornament exchange or to a loved one who needs a small reminder that they are loved. This can be displayed year-round on a hanger as well as displayed in memory of a loved one on your tree. In this project, I am using our CNC DIY Factory's hand-cut wood faux book. This is handcrafted by Chris with special attention to the details from a solid piece of wood with all the character that raw wood offers. This makes it perfect for staining, painting, decoupaging, stamping, and applying transfers or paint inlays. I am using the DIY crinoline from this month's Maker's Box and applying one coat of the paint to the pages of the book and the front cover. For the back, spine, and the inside edges all around the cover, I am using the second DIY paint in this month's Maker's Box, Apothecary. This is a light sagey green and is one of my favorite colors. For the cover of our wood faux book, I am using the exclusive decoupage paper from Upcycled Treasures called Cardinal Ephemera. Once I have the image cut out to fit the cover of the book, I will use the DIY liquid patina and apply an even layer in a starter strip along the edge. Then I'll spritz my paper and smooth it down, adding more decoupage medium over the top. I will work my way across the book in sections to ensure I don't have any wrinkles and being careful not to put too much liquid patina in the hinge of the book. Once the paper is completely dry, I will use my finger sander and sand off the excess paper around the edges for a clean, crisp edge. To clean up the hinge of the book, I am using a sharp craft knife and I'm drawing it down just left of center where the paper did not adhere to the book. Oh, this is so satisfying. For the back of the book, I wanted it to have a little bling, so I pulled out my IOD gilded transfer set called Emporium. When I'm working with a transfer that needs to be in a very specific spot, I trim off a portion of the white backer paper and line up my transfer where I want it. Then I fold it back to peel off the rest of the backer paper and smooth it down. This keeps my transfer lined up right where I want it. With these gilded transfers, one thing to note is that you do not have to press down hard to release the image from the carrier sheet. In fact, it's better if you don't. And also, Lift up the carrier sheet as you rub to help the foil release. Tell me in the comments if this is a look that you like. I think it is beautiful. Because this is a heartfelt gift, I'm adding a stencil from Essential Stencils Mother Day line last year from their 20 1-inch word set. I love this saying and feel it is very fitting. I am using a pigment ink in gold and a makeup brush to apply it. Keep in mind, you could use stamps to get the same effect. Next, I want to add a date to the tag area on the front cover. I am using the IOD Apothecary Labels stamps. I lay my stamps on my project where I want them, and then I use the IOD thin mount to pick them up, making sure to line up the edges of the sides and the bottom with the book for the correct placement when I go back to stamp my image. I really hope IOD comes out with metallic permanent inks because I'm about to find out that this ink is not permanent. I want to carry the gold over to the edges of the pages, so I'm using the DIY Golden Ticket Liquid Patina. I apply one coat to the page edges for a nice finished look. Because DIY paint is clay-based, it needs to be sealed, and I want to add some age to the book as well. So I start with the DIY clear wax to seal the paint. Unfortunately, this is where I find out the ink is not permanent and it smears a little bit. But no worries, it just adds to that vintage feel, right? Right. Once I have applied the clear wax, I will follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to give it some age, and then I'll buff off the excess. I love how this book turned out, and the date is actually the year my mom was born. She has been gone from this world for 35 years now, but she is never forgotten. In this project, I am using a scrap piece of wood from our shop and an ornate label I cut on my laser cutter. I am going to stain the back and the sides for a finished look to this project, and it's easier to do it now rather than later. I am using Minwax water-based stain in Legacy Brown. You can find this stain at Lowe's or Menards, and they have well over 200 colors to choose from. It's water-based, it has no odor, and it is non-combustible, and it dries quickly. For the front side of this board, I am using the second fusion color in the maker's box called Snowdrop. This is a new to me color, and I am excited to try it. I am using a well-loved chip brush and the dry brush method to apply this paint. When using this technique, it is important to use a paint with a built-in sealer, such as Fusion Mineral Paint or DIY Cottage Colors. Do not use the clay-based paint by DIY, and I'll share more about that shortly. Once I have these two pieces painted, I'll dry them thoroughly before moving on to the next step in this project. This technique is what I call a reverse stain. The all-in-one paint creates a barrier for the stain, but allows the light color to be darkened just a little bit. When the paint is dry, I add the water-based stain. This is the Legacy Brown color over top of the paint, working in smaller sections on a big board, but on this one, I'll work quickly so that the stain does not dry. Then I'll spritz the area with the stain and take a lint-free towel and dab off the stain to create a mottled, aged effect. The more water you use, the more stain comes off. It is one of my favorite techniques. Once everything is dry, give it a quick sand and it is smooth as butter. Now I'm using Type-On Quick and Thick glue to adhere the ornate label to the top of the board. Then I'll take a thrifted hook from my stash, and using this nifty little tool from my crafting toolbox, I will pre-drill the holes for the screws into the label and the board. If you want one of these handy tools, it is linked in the description box below. Then I'll use my screwdriver and secure the hook to the board. Now, unfortunately, the only screws I could find were a shiny silver, but as creators, we have ways to fix that. I am taking rub and buff in black, Spanish copper, and antique gold, and using an old paintbrush, I will magically change these shiny silver screws into an aged bronze. Now the second exclusive rice paper from the Painted Photographer in this month's Maker's Box is not about cardinals, but I still love it and I had to create with it. So this paper is called Midnight Glow, and I'm going to add one of the smaller sections onto a clear mason jar. I used my water pen and the wet tear method to create a jagged edge around the paper so that it is less noticeable when it is applied to a surface. I am going to use Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel and apply an even coat to the back of the rice paper. I don't want any of the decoupage medium around the image to create a halo effect, so this process will help keep that from happening. Then I'll smooth out the rice paper, adding more decoupage gel over the top of the paper and being careful not to get any of the decoupage medium on the glass around the rice paper. Now I'm using the DIY crinoline from the Maker's Box and applying one coat all around the rice paper and all around the jar, but just up to that first lip where the lid screws on. I didn't get this on film, but I took a small amount of salt wash and mixed it with some of the crinoline to create a slightly thick paint. And then using my paintbrush, I'm going to stipple this all over the jar where I just painted the base coat of crinoline. Once the paint and salt wash mixtures dry, I will apply a coat of Wise Owl varnish in matte finish to seal in the DIY paint. I dug around in my stash and I found this hanging lid that I bought at the Dollar Tree a long time ago. This is perfect for my hanging lantern. I added a tea light and a sawtooth hanger to the back of the board, and I think this would be an excellent gift. To make this piece even more meaningful, adding a scripture to the board can help serve as a light along the way. I am sure that if you have gone thrifting, you have seen one of the photo frame trays. I am going to flip this from a blank photo frame to a heartfelt, meaningful gift. I took the tray apart and cleaned it very well. Now I'm going to apply Fusion Mineral Paint in Coal Black. I will apply 2 coats of this over the entire frame. Since I didn't want the framing mat that was in this tray, I cut a piece of wood to fit inside the tray. I am painting 1 coat of the DIY crinoline on one side of this board. I am using part of the second exclusive decoupage paper from Recycled Treasures in the Maker's Box called Songbird Studies. I love all 4 of these images, but I think the art journal is the perfect choice. To decoupage this paper to the board, I am using DIY liquid patina, and I'm laying down an even layer in a small section at one end as my starter strip. Then I'll spritz my paper to relax the fibers and smooth it down with my hand, my paintbrush, and a piece of balled up plastic wrap. I will continue across the board until I have the entire paper adhered. Then I will add one more layer of liquid patina to completely seal it in. To create a border around the paper, I am using a sponge dauber and the same Fusion Coal Black paint, and I'm dabbing the paint around the perimeter of the board, being sure to overlap the paper so you do not see any of the edges. One of my favorite ways to soften a black paint is to add Waverly's antiquing wax. This brings the stark black to a warm, soft brown black, and once it is wiped back, it is silky smooth. I simply use a wet wipe to apply the wax around the edges, and then I spread the remaining wax on my wipe around the paper to soften and age the image. For the tray frame, I am using my finger sander and a 220 grit sandpaper to sand the coal black paint to create a little bit of distress and bring out some of the original mahogany color underneath. Then I will take the same Waverly antiquing wax and a wet wipe and apply this to the frame. Then I'll take a lint-free towel and wipe it back and buff it out just a bit. I love this rich, warm color the Waverly antiquing wax creates, and it is silky smooth to touch. Once I've finished applying the wax, I will put it all back together along with the freshly cleaned glass to protect the image. Since this can be taken apart, you could do a different image on the back side of the board to change it out with your decor. A great, heartfelt, and meaningful gift for sure. If you enjoyed today's Cardinal gift ideas, I hope they inspire you to create something meaningful and heartfelt for someone you love or even for yourself. I'll have the link below to the CNC DIY Factory Wood Faux book, along with the details on how you can skip the wait list and get your own Sonnet Maker's Box shipped to your door every month so you can create right along with us. I would love to see what you make. Also, I am part of a Maker's Box playlist where 9 of us create inspiration for you every month. I have that link down below as well. Go check out all of the creators and tell them CNC sent you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who loves homemade decor. Thank you so much for spending creating time with me. Keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I'll see you in the next DIY. But until then, here are some more DIY videos to inspire your creativity.